المهتد وما يضلل فلا تجد له وليا مرشدا أما بعد. Tonight, inshallah, after Isha, we'll have Qiyam and Dua, inshallah. For our brothers and sisters who are suffering, inshallah, that will be after Isha, and Isha is 8 o'clock. But in difficult times, we need to hold into things that uplift us spiritually. And the talk today about Quran. The talk of today about the Quran. And we divide this topic to two topics. The first topic about the Quran in the Quran. What Allah said about the Quran in the Quran. And hopefully we'll be able to cover some aspect of this. And inshallah, then Khatira tonight will be connected to the topic and the Qiyam of tonight, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many verses of the Quran talks about the Quran itself. And the best thing to understand about anything is to see what the person, when it comes to human being, what the person who made it, created, or spoke it, or authored it as a human being. Talk about a human. Allah does not have, none of those things apply in the Quran. The Quran has not been created, it's the word of Allah. You need to know what that one have said about what you're about to experience. For when you want to know the Quran, you know to talk about the verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his own word, describe his book, describe the Quran itself. And first ayat, it is in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Quran by saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب. This is the book. لا ريب فيه. There's no doubt in it. هدى للمتقين is guidance to the righteous people. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said ذلك الكتاب, those who knows Arabic language, ذلك وهذا. What is the difference between ذلك and هذا? One of them, هذا للقريب, ذلك للبعيد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ذلك الكتاب. He's talking about the state, the highest state of this book. ذلك الكتاب, لرفعة الكتاب. Or the elevation of the book. ذلك الكتاب. Now, Quran called Kitab because the Kitab has many meanings in Arabic. One of them is anything that you address to someone, writing a letter to someone called Kitab. That is in the Quran also. That قالت إني ألقي إلي إيش؟ كتاب إيش؟ كريم إنه من سليمان إنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The Queen of Sheba said a noble book or a letter being sent to me. Talking about a letter. Kitab. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he sent kitabs to kings. Letters called kitab. And therefore, the kitab, everything has been written, it's called kitab, but also anything that you address to someone as, directly called kitab. Now, before the Quran memorized and also was written during Rasulullah time. Now, also you have the book, a book that starts from the beginning, it has a beginning, had an end, and also called kitab. Within the traditions, a chapter in the book called Kitab. Like Bukhari, rahimahullah, Imam Malik, rahimahullah. In the book itself, it's called that kitab, a particular chapter. It's called kitab. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the book. There's no doubt in it. There are different descriptions. Actually, if somebody accepts Islam, Mu'tasim, he said, you know how he accepted Islam? He opened the Quran, after read the Fatiha, he said, this is the book is no doubt. So I'm going to see what it's all about. Book is no doubt. He said he read it from the cover to cover. After he finished, he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. He decided to become Muslim. Because the challenge, he said, there's no author have seen, no book written by any human being that says that my book has no doubt in it. That's what Allah said. That is, La rayb. Allah rayb fi. This is the book, there's no doubt, or this book, there's no anything, there's no doubt in it. Could be read both ways. تقول ذلك الكتاب لا ريب. This is the book, there's no doubt. Or this book, لا ريب فيه, there's no doubt in it. For this is the power of the Quran. The Quran is a book that challenges humanity. لو كان من عند غير الله إيش? If this book were from other than Allah, لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. They will have find all this discrepancy and confusion and contradictions. But it's from Allah. It's consistent. You know, amazing things about the Quran. Everything about the Quran is amazing. Quran most of the time was revealed how? How many verses at the time? 5 verses at the time. With the exception of some surahs in the Quran. Like Surah Al-Fatiha, revealed as the whole surah. Surah Al-Nasr. The other surah revealed as the whole Surah Al-An'am was revealed as a whole. 70 angels came down. But most of the surahs of the Quran was revealed 5 verses at a time. Our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as was received in the Quran, 5 verses of this surah revealed. Then maybe 6 months later, and there's a revelation between, another 5 verses of this surah, that revealed 6 months earlier, had been revealed. And Rasul sallallahu said to the Sahaba writing it, put these 5 verses to that surah, it belongs to that surah. And when you read the Quran, you see the flow. If you bring somebody, no matter how much intelligence you might have, if I tell you a poem, and said, 2 verses of my poem, I'm a poet. Memorize this 2. And then I start coming telling you every other day, other poem. I said, by the way, this is a new poem. But it's not the complete. And then a month later I said, by the way, do you memorize that poem that I gave you? These 2 verses of this poetry belong to that. You're going to say, what? I'm not able to memorize that. But the Rasul memorized that. And when he's praying in Salah, there's no confusion. Right? Quran differentiates itself from Arabic literature. How? Although it's revealed in Arabic. The verse in Arabic poetry, it's called what? A verse in Arabic poetry. In Arabic poetry, if a verse in poetry, what do you call it? Bayt. What the verse in the Quran could be called? Ayah. Because every ayah in the Quran is an ayah. Is a sign. It leads to a direction. Is a guidance. People say poetry, like they talk about their camels, they talk about their horse, they talk about their spouse. There's no guidance for entertainment. But none of the verses in the Quran for entertainment. For comfort, not entertainment. For guidance. Therefore, is a verse. It's an ayah. Right? When people have a group of verses in the Arabic language, a poem is called what? Huh? Qasida. Qasida. What verses, group of verses in Quran called? Surah. Which is completely different. The end of the Arabic poetry called Qafiyah. The end of the Quran called Fasila. For Quran differentiates itself from, and the entire Quran called Quran or Mus'haf or suhuf, the other called diwan. From day when Allah differentiated between the Quran and just poetry and literature, so this is different. Now, the other things about the nature of the Quran, that the Quran, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Quran, one surah have many topics. It might have a name like a talaq or a nisa, but that's not the whole what is going to talk about, not only women or divorce. And therefore, the different topic within the surah, all of them are connected. They are related. The Quran has a flow and has integrations of life. Like, talk about marriage, then talk about salah. Then of salah, talk about zakah. Then talk about hajj. Talk about, taking of the orphans, neighbors. Because all are connected. The rituals and the social dimension are connected. And I always refer to Anwar here in our audience, that always talking about the connection between salah and feeding hungry and needy people. It's connected. Any kind of faith does not have social components, and compassion is not the real faith. Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected both rituals and social responsibility, and compassion and caring about people. The other thing you see in the Quran, there's the themes. Quran have different themes. Theme of akhirah, talk of day of judgment. Theme of ahkam, rulings. Theme of stories. Theme of parables, amthal, in the Quran. All of those are meant to convey the hidayah, guidance, to guide humanity. And therefore, as we read some of those verses in the Quran, I want to tell you about the nature of the Quran itself. And inshallah, next week, we'll talk about how to interact with the Quran. Now, one of the most important things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. We read it in Arabic language, so they might understand. What that means, the original text of the Quran, in order to be called Quran, has to be in Arabic. The other is meaning, translation of meaning of the Quran, and therefore we do not call any book or even translation of the Quran unless it is in Arabic, in the original language, and that was revealed in. That's very important. And here I would like to say that one of the things about the Quran revealed in Arabic language, and Arabic language is a living language. Living language, not dead language. Not few people know it. That millions of people know it. Not only that. Who knows Surah Al-Fatiha here? Who knows Surah Al-Fatiha? Raise your hand. Surah Al-Fatiha. Everyone? Surah Al-Fatiha is in Arabic. All of you speak Arabic. You do. Almost 1.8 billion Muslims have other language, which is Arabic. Because they read the Quran in Arabic. They read it in Salah in Arabic. And actually, a religious leader, a faith leader, asked me that all of you read it in original language. I said, yeah. I said, that's unique. How many people read Bible in Aramaic? Everybody reading the Quran, at least the Surah Al-Fatiha, is in Arabic. Not only that, we read it in a method that's different what the Arab used to speak. An Arab person will not say, آتنا كباب ولا تنسانا من الماء اللبق. They don't talk like that. They don't say like, they don't have tajweed as they speak. But when you read the Quran, there's tajweed. Beautify your voice. And by the tajweed, not just to make it sound good, even tajweed itself has meaning. For example, the word sama in Quran, how do you pronounce sama? Huh? As-sama. How do you pronounce ard? Ard. What's the mad? One of them vast, and one of them limited. Just by tajweed. You know? To make a difference. Okay? And every gunna, every idgham has something to do with the meaning. It's not just. There's emphasis. Like in Surah Yusuf. When you see there's a dialogue took place between the people of Al-Aziz and the wife of Al-Aziz. And when they discovered that Yusuf is innocent, what did they say? Yusuf, أعرض عن هذا. How many mad is this? There's mad here? I'm meaning Yusuf أعرض عن هذا. طيب, what did he say to the lady? واستغفري. Those who know the Quran. استغفري لذنبك إنك كنت من الخاطئين. They emphasize. Like Yusuf أعرض عن هذا. Very quick. Yusuf, forget about this. You know? No. And you ask Allah for forgiveness because you made a mistake, you were wrong. Yeah. Has feeling. That has feeling. Before, not everyone that spoke Arabic spoke with tajweed. It's always the Quran. There's the beauty of it. Right? There's places in the Quran that is not permissible for you to stop in the middle of the sentence. If you stop, you have to start again to complete the sentence. And there's a place that you must stop. وقف لازم. Because otherwise you change the meaning. All these techniques you learn. These words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is the tafsir of the ayah. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. طيب. The second ayah that I want to discuss with you is referring to stories. Allah says in the Quran, نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. Allah says to Rasulullah, the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, tell us a story. Tell us a story. By the way, nothing more beautiful than telling the stories. And whoever tells the story the best could control the narrative. There's many stories of young kids under the rebels of Gaza. No one talking about them. The story. The story is very important in the Quran. Almost 1/3 of the Quran is stories. Allah says, نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص. طيب. In Quran, the word قصة, or the word in Arabic from قص الأثر. If somebody walked and on the ground wearing shoes, what do you see? It's a footprint. Am I correct? If you walk and track the footprint, we call قص الأثر. You really track them. The qasas of the Quran is tracking the footprint exactly the way they were. It's not fiction. Allah does not tell fiction. Every qassa in the Quran story is real, not imaginary. Right? قال نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص. We tell you the best of his stories. Some scholar says, if a person says, I swear by Allah to somebody, I'm going to tell you the best story, and he did not tell the story of Yusuf, he has to fast 3 days. Because can never. Because the story of Yusuf is the best of the stories. Everything else is not the best of the stories. Not how much. I know somebody like Harry Potter here. Sorry. It's not the best story. Yeah. Give that to my children. أحسن القصص. طيب. What are the purpose of the stories in Quran? Every story has a moral. There's a reason the story being told. Allah says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ. Very surely in their story a lesson for those who think and reflect. ما كان حديث يفترى. For there's a lesson in the stories. Any of you here know the story of Surah Yusuf? The story in Surah Yusuf. You know it? Not knowing Surah Yusuf itself. Because last time I asked that question, people said, you don't have to. In Surah Yusuf, you find lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson in the story. Every one of you here, hearing the news, seeing what happened in the news, go and read Surah Yusuf. It gives a lot of comfort. Don't despair. I know sometimes dark moments with despair. Read Surah Yusuf. Now, let me ask you, there's symbolism in the stories. Symbolism in the stories. Did I ask you this question before? Symbolism in the stories. What are symbols being repeated in Surah Yusuf? What? Ihsan is the theme. The dominant virtue in Surah Yusuf is ihsan. To be conscious of Allah and to be kind to people. That's true. That's the learning virtue. And that's what Yusuf was consistent being muhsin. But what else that the symbols, like sometimes object even. What things that been repeated? Huh? What did you say? Qamis, because I pointed to my clothes. I just wanted to my clothes. I gave you the tip. It's the shirt. The symbolism of the shirt. Of Yusuf alayhi salam, the shirt of childhood. We call that Qamis al-Mu'amara. The shirt of conspiracy. The second shirt is the shirt that was pulled from behind. هذا قميص البراءة. The shirt of innocence, proving the innocent. And the third is the shirt that he sent with his brother to his father, and he get his side back. Called that قميص البشارة. The shirt of good news. You know how long between the two shirts? The first shirt and third shirt? You know how many years? The first shirt was the shirt of a child. The last shirt was the shirt of a minister in government. Of an adult grown man. Can you imagine the father seeing the two shirts? It's amazing. Decades between the two shirts. The other symbols in Surah Yusuf is what? Dreams. How many dreams in the surah? Huh? 3? 3 going once? Huh? 4. It's kind of like an auction. Okay, 4. It is 4. The dreams that Yusuf alayhi salam have seen himself. The dreams that the 2 prison mates have seen. 2 of them, 2 dreams. They make it what? 3. And the dream of the king. Okay? Symbolism in Surah, in the story of Musa alayhi salam. What's been repeated in Surah of Musa? Musa alayhi salam. What thing that dominant? The asa, the stick. How many times the sticks been repeated? But did he have a stick in his childhood? Okay. It has to be through the surah, through the story. What is repeated things? Huh? Water. Who said water? Yes. Water. The water where he, as a child, was put on in house of Pharaoh. The water where he met his wife. Water. The water where the split of the sea, the drowning Pharaoh. And the water he has after they cross the sea when they ask for water, Ben Israel, أضرب بعصاك الحجر فانفجرت منه 12 عين. 12 springs. Order. Okay. Just get you excited about the Quran a little bit. What other symbolism in the story of Musa? You're going well. You're doing very well. Water, and what the other second symbols? You think? What is it? That's a symbol. Huh? No, sihr is not in his childhood. Something followed from his childhood to the adulthood. Huh? Present what? Females. Women. Women in the story. The mother. The sisters. The wife of Pharaoh, Asiya. The 2 daughters what? Of Shu'aib. Women. The presence of women in the story of Musa alayhi salam. Therefore, the Qasas has a lot of morals, a lesson to be learned. You remember last week I talked about Surah Al-Buruj, you remember? طيب. The purpose of the Quran. This is going to take the rest of the class. Give me the description of the Quran in the Quran. Quran as what? Huh? As Furqan. Furqan. Why call it Furqan? Criterion differentiate between right and wrong. Make it clear for you what is right and what's wrong. There's no wishy-washy about it. Furqan. What else? Shifa. Quran is a healing. We need a lot of healing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَزُّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِيش ما هو الشفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين. شفاء. And what else? Huh? ذكر. نحن نزلنا الذكر. We revealed that as a reminder. What else? Huh? هدى. شهر رمضان الذي ينزل في القرآن هدى للناس. Guidance to humanity. What else? Huh? Magid. It's glory. Quran Magid. لوح محفوظ. What else? What? Miracles. Mu'jiz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenged people with it. You know? If they can even produce one surah of it. What else? Huh? Nadhir is a warner. لتنذر به. So you can warn people. What else? Huh? نور. وكذلك أوحينا إليك روحا من أمرنا ما كنت تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان ولكن جعلناه نورا. We made Quran as a light. نهدي به من نشاء من عبادنا. It's a light. If you don't have the Quran, you don't have light. What else? Bashir. Yeah. يبشر به المؤمنين. أيوة. What else? Glad tidings, bring glad tidings. Quran bring glad tidings. What? Final message. Yeah, final message. What else? What? Hadi, guidance. Huda, guidance. Huh? Hadid? Hadith. Naam. Ahsan al-Hadith. The best of his speech. The best of his speech. Because certain things you said to me, بالمعنى. There's no direct verses, some of it on them, but بالمعنى, the general meaning of it. What else?
History.
Huh?
History.
History? Quran deals with history. Yeah, it deals with history and telling us the amba, the news of people before us. Yes. What past history? The path to Jannah. Guide us to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Yeah. What else? The Rahmah I mentioned earlier. Quran is a mercy. And by the way, this one we're going to dwell on it a little bit. 3 things that I want you to go as you describe it in the Quran with. Number 1 is hidayah, guidance. And all the Quran, every aspect of it is guidance, and the guidance is rahmah, is mercy. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, you have to look to the Quran, all of it as source of mercy, rahmah min Allah. And the hidayah itself is a rahmah, is a mercy from Allah, is a gift to us. Guidance. That's why you ask for it more than 17 times a day. You said what? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي إيش؟ هي أقوم. Quran writes what was guide for what is right, upright, make us going to the straight path. Quran غير ذي عوج. There's no crookedness in the Quran. Straightforward. For when a person have the Quran, experience the mercy of Allah in every aspect of their life. Because hidayah is a mercy. Guidance. فَمَنْ يَمْشِي مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ أَهْدَى أَمَّا يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Is it equal? A person does not see where they're going. They're so confused. They're full of themselves. Their arrogance. They worship in themselves. They worship their power. When a person see clear path, full of light. But therefore, is huda, is rahmah, and it is nur. It's light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in Surah Al-Shura, كَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحًا مِّنْ أَمْرِنَا. We have revealed you the source of life, Quran, روحًا من أمرنا. Imam al-Suyuti قال لأنه بيدحي القلوب. Is a source of, you live with the Quran. Rasulullah said, person doesn't have the Quran like a dead person. روحًا من أمرنا. ما كنت تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان. You didn't know any before this, any revelation. And all the tafasil or details of the guidance. Iman here doesn't mean that Rasulullah has no Iman before. The Iman here means Sharia. The Iman. ولكن جعلناه نورا. We made Quran as a light. نهدي به من نشاء من عباده. There is a light that will guide through it whomever we wish of our servants. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُور. If Allah does not give you the light, you don't have a light. Allah says in the Quran, فَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ. person who was dead and brought them back to life through the Quran, the revelation. This is spiritual death, not physical death. فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. We give him a light, or her a light. يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. That person take this light and walk with through humanity. كَمَنْ مَثَلُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. Is it equal to a person choose to live in darkness and refuse to get out of it? Therefore, the Quran is light, is nur. And you want to see the impact of the Quran? Look to what happened to the Arabs in 23 years. When the Quran was revealed in mountain of Mecca, every habit and customs in Arabia, some of them are good virtues, and the others are so confused. They have problem in being just to people who they work for them. Economic injustice. They have abused women. And economic injustice was in riba, usury. Abuse women. They have relationship outside of marriage. They abuse people, put them in slavery, and mistreat people who are not Arabs. They have discrimination against people who are not Arabs at the time. And they don't have regulations in their life that much. In 23 years, if you are an Arab here, I'm sorry. That would happen to the Arab before Islam. Still some of us still have Jahiliyyah. Arab and non-Arabs still have some Jahiliyyah on us. Then Quran come, and can you imagine have them have the habit of Salah? I asked this before. Who read the book Power of Habit? There's a book written by a Muslim called The Power of Habit. Have you read this book? Did you read it? Power of Habit. Anyone knows the book? That's very strange. Sometimes when I ask in other gatherings, people read the book. Written by a non-Muslim. Repeated habit. Like, can you imagine people who used to drink 5 times a day? They used to drink in different times, the Arabs. They have name for it. You know Sheikh Ismail? They used to drink like 5 times a day. Alcohol. And they used to give a different name. One in the morning they have name, and then night have a name, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have them to pray 5 times a day. They changed their habit of getting in the morning, washing themselves, something called wudu. As a convert, anyone convert to Islam here? A new convert or somebody revert to Islam? Ask them of their first wudu in their life. And then they have to get up to pray at the particular time. Quran did it. Quran. And then regulated their marriages, regulated their business, regulated everything. In 23 years, complete transformation. No one in leadership would be able to do that with any community. Even with Adamson. I'm sorry. 23 years. You cannot do that. The Quran only does it. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was able to do it. He lived the Quran, walked the Quran, set up the model and the example, and people followed him. 23 years. Unheard of in the history of humankind, the history of humankind, unheard of. The transformation happened in 23 years. This ummah of khairiyah, of goodness. Seriously. لا يغرنك الذي ترى. Don't get deceived by what you see. There's a goodness in this ummah. Seriously. As long they have the Quran, as long the Quran is with us, we've been anchored, grounded. Now, For those are the descriptions. Huda, guidance. Rahmah is mercy. And Nur, light. رحم الله Shaykh Taha Jabir Alwani. He told me once, he said that every surah that you read, you have to look at the beginning of the surah, the end of the surah, the middle of the surah, and you can see the connection between all of them. He said, therefore, read it once, read it the second time, read the third time. He said, every time you read it, you come to discover new things, new understanding. Because Quran does not go old. لا يبلى. لا يخلق من كثرة الرد. It does not become boring. No. Trust me. If you read Fatiha, if you memorize Fatiha, read Fatiha several times, you will come to understand more things about the Fatiha itself. Now, to conclude today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلْ إِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ على يأتوا بمثل هذا القرآن لا يأتون بمثله ولو كان بعضهم لبعض ظهيرا. Allah said, if all humanity and jinn gather to bring something like this Quran, they will not be able to do it. Even they help one another. Because any one of you, professor, anyone professor teaching any subject? Any one of you here, teacher? No teacher? Unbelievable. You just don't like to raise your hand. You don't like to be exposed. Any one of you teach any topic here, if you're teaching it for 23 years, 40 years, you're an expert on it, isn't it? Can you really tell me you never contradict yourself once? Or you find that you say something that you need to correct? How can a man who had not been known have read any books before the Quran, not even have a verse of poetry, will 23 years will convey a message, never contradict himself once, and talk about different topic, different subjects, and never contradict himself once? How that happened? How that happened? It's not possible. Unless it's from Allah. Unless from Allah alone. Well, you have to have unshakable belief. There's nothing like the Quran in the face of the earth today. Nothing like the Quran. I want to see if you want to ask me questions. My principal of this class remind me not to talk to the end of the class. Any questions? I have so many verses I want to share with you, but stop here. Any question? Don't forget the Qiyam tonight. We're going to do, inshallah, for our brothers and sisters. Any question? About the Quran? About the Quran, huh? Any questions? No questions? Yes. Musa talking to them and they're talking to Musa? No. ما قال أيها السحرة. That's what you like? يعني إيش السؤال هو؟ Yes. Yes. No. In the Quran, sometimes, for example, in the story of Maryam عليها السلام. فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. We sent her Jibreel عليه السلام. And then إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم. نعم. You see, Sheikh? Allah said the Malaika said to Maryam. Is one angel or many angels? هو جبريل عليه السلام. Like هذا تعظيم. هذا representation of Malaika, of the angels. Yeah. هذا اسمه الجنس ها؟ نعم. الملائكة. نعم ليس العدد اسمه جنس. فهي talking about ملائكة وجبريل عليه السلام was ملائكة. نعم. Yeah. Yes. Therefore, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeated the story of Musa, as Sheikh Ismail was saying, in many places. And sometimes the way that in one place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak how Musa spoke, in the other places there's a change of the wording. There's no contradiction on that. Some of them give you more details than the first verse. يعني فصل أكثر وأجمل في الأولى. يعني give you the general and then the other give you the details, give you more details. But there's something very interesting, Sheikh Ismail, that in Quran there's no descriptions of, for example, what kind of shirt Yusuf alayhi salam had. No, there's no color of the shirt. There's no color of the shirt. The size of the shirt. Is it from Macy's or from Hex? There's nothing like that. Why? Because it's not important. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, certain details left, like people says, إذ قالت نملة. Then they said the name of the ant. The ant. Spoke to Sulaiman. What's the name of the ant? What do you need the name? This doesn't have to have passport. Like an ant. But he says Namla. You know why is Namla? Because a female. What the role of the female? Who's the head of the ants? A female. قالت Namla. This is one of the miracles of the Quran. Yeah. قالت يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم. There's some people treat people like ants. They just walk on them. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, with all his power, Allah humbled him. Said, don't walk in the valley of ants. There's an ant, and there's an ant there, insignificant in human eyes. Allah made significant. And some people look to the people like ants. أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم. We're coming over. ادخلوا مساكنكم. What is this? Sulaiman alayhi salam, King Solomon, had respect to the ants. وتبسم ضاحكا من قولها. I'm going to stop here inshallah because time for Isha. And after Isha inshallah we'll have the Qiyam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.